Hello there.
In today's video, I'm going to be working on my Sea Shack scene in Blender. I've already modelled the larger pieces of the scene, so today I want to add a fishing rod, a small boat, and some other items. For this project, I'm hoping to do some simple animations, experiment with lighting and camera angles, and maybe even have a short loop of a day and night circle. I'll be doing some more videos while I work towards the final animation, so please consider subscribing if you're interested in seeing more of this project. Stick around to the end of the video to see some of the test renders of the progress so far. So I had already modelled the fish before I started recording, but just needed to do some little touch-ups and duplicate one of them for the other side of the scene. The plan is to have the fish swim around the shack and pier, so there can be a little loop happening while my yet-to-be modelled character goes about his day. Here, I've got the shack they built following one of Grant Abbitt's tutorials. I made my scene a bit more rectangular than what's in his video, and used the wood models from the shack floor to add the pier and boat dock. I was following his tutorial a few months ago when I first started the scene, but took a break from Blender, and when I came back, just started modelling things on my own. There's a card in the top right corner of the video if you want to try following along with his tutorial. So I've never tried using any of the curves before in Blender, and ended up having a lot of trouble with using this NURBS curve to create the rope for anchoring the boat to the dock. Having to manage the handle placement and rotation while also trying to make the rope wrap around the post was surprisingly difficult. Really, I should have just made the boat first so I know what length of rope to work with and I wouldn't have to reposition it as much as I had. Regardless, I'm still happy with the result that I ended up with, but I would definitely consider using a Bezier curve and placing the boat first if I were to do this again. Speaking of making the boat, it's time I made that too. This is shamelessly inspired by the Sea Shack tutorial as well, just like the majority of the scenes so far. I find that working with these low poly models is really helpful for keeping things simple, while still being effective at developing a world or story. In the past with Blender and many other creative outlets, I've always struggled with focusing too much on the smaller details, that I tend to lose sight of the overall impact they might be having on the scene. By using simpler models, I can focus more on the whole scene and pay attention to what should really matter. When I was picking the colours for the boat, I tried to imitate an American oak for the body with a lighter maple style wood on the seat. I wanted the colours to stand out a little from the dock, but not draw too much attention away that it would become distracting. And here we've got the fishing rod that I wanted to work on. With this, I wanted to add the kind of curve you get when you've got either a fish or a sinker on the end of the line, rather than just being a straight pole, because that wouldn't really make too much sense if there's a little bit of weight pulling or anything like that. So for this, instead of using the NURBS curve, I decided to go with the Bezier curve, which was a lot easier to use. Rather than having 4 handles by default, it's only got 2, and then you can just extrude and add more on, and it's a lot more manageable. You can see I'm just kind of wiggling things around, getting them in place, lining them up, and then just adding kind of those little droops just to make it look like the line is connecting to the ringlets that would be on an actual fishing rod. And then I chose to add the bobber just as a little touch, just so it's like just a plain line going in the water. When I get around to doing the animation, I do want to have the character do some fishing and maybe just like toss the line around and make the bobber bounce off the water just a little bit. I did try for a good while to like get the bobber to line up with the fishing line. Really, I should have just changed where the line is and changed like the curve of it a lot, but it's just a little detail that doesn't really matter too much. And then of course it's this classic red and white bobber. So with the bed here, I wanted to keep things very simple. Just a mattress, bed base and sheet. Since it's in such a tight space, I found that isolating the objects helped a lot while modelling, even though it is so basic. The main bonus in this situation would be not having to worry about other items obscuring your view. In case you didn't know, it's the / command on the numpad to isolate objects. I ran into some problems when I was trying to fold the sheet over the edges of the bed, and considered using the mattress as a collider and making a cloth sim, but figured just hiding the nasty corners in the bed base will work just fine for my needs. With the barbecue, I wasn't too sure how to make it, but I knew I wanted it to be round. So I just examined how I made the pot that's next to it, and that gave me all I needed to know to get going. Hopping into edit mode and grabbing the top half of the sphere, scaling it in and lowering it down, then repeating with smaller sections gave a decent result, and also a flat base for me to add firewood onto. Originally I wanted it to have rounded legs, but didn't like the look of them, so I went for square legs instead. So I figured it isn't a barbecue without a grill plate, so that needed to be made as well. My solution for that was also pretty simple, just a flat cylinder with a bunch of new topology using the knife tool and then deleting every other face. Isolating the object also helped a lot with making sure I was selecting the right faces to delete. There's probably a modifier or other method that would have been better suited, but this works for what I wanted. When I started thinking of what shots I might want to use for the animation, I figured one of the character cooking some fish on the grill would be a nice close-up. Making some logs and ash to have in the barbecue wasn't really necessary, but I thought it's worth making in case a close-up shot could see past the grill plate. For the logs, I just assigned some spots of grey so they looked ashen, and then rotated the duplicate pieces, so it wouldn't be too obvious that all 3 logs are the same. With the ash, I referred to my last Blender video so that I could use geometry nodes to make a lot of ash clumps with ease, rather than duplicating different sets over and over to fill up the bottom of the grill. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching this far. I hope you enjoyed this small look into a project I've been wanting to finish for a while now. In the next update video, I'll be making some of the fish fillets for the grill, adding some more sea life, and also making more furniture. If you've got any suggestions for items or tips, leave it in a comment below. I'll leave you with the still renders from the scene and catch you in the next video. See ya!